They're called like work with I think it's just like you're speaking and you're alright, doing it with a still graphic of those solution. And then all the mics are clear, so you're good. People know
Do I need to flip the presentation up myself?
Yeah, so do you want to drive it?
Yeah.
I'll get you a
Get
clicker,
a
so
clicker,
you
and then I
kinda-
can just.
And if you prefer to do a clip-on mic, if you want to walk around, I can do that instead of this.
These on yet? Are these on?
I just muted it, yeah. So we don't need to see that. That can go away. And then you get all your stuff down here.
Oh, let me get the.
Or you can screen share. It's on there. I forgot to do that. Just make sure this works first. That's all good.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
There it is.
Like to sit right here?
That's not fun.
I'll give you a charity of this one. I wish you could see me then. Sorry, if anything text, Christmas came down to me about, keep it in order.
Well, my wife just texted me and said, "Do good luck tonight. Don't let me do shit." And then my daughter, when I was dropping her off at school, she goes,
I don't know what they're gonna ask tomorrow. That's.
2. Check, check. Yeah. 1, 2. Check. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right behind you.
Is it?
So the weather held up for us.
That's good.
So if it starts snowing this morning, it would have been a long day.
Yes. Yes. Steve's up in the hot
What's
seat.
that?
He's in the hot seat. Thank you for the heads up.
Okay, thank you.
Want to do the, have this in your back pocket. Are you ever gonna look at this?
It comes up.
Yeah, that's why I want you.
I'm gonna defer. How are you guys?
You are.
I guess we ought to. Man, you must have been walking in a lot of
I
snow.
know, and I really like scuffed my boots on the. We're on. Realize I scuffed my boots on the mat extra hard. I'm still a mess.
Hello, everybody. We're about to open this public hearing, so if you can take your seats. And, you know, none of us have any medical issues like COVID or flu, so you can come closer if you'd like. Plus, we have old eyes, so it's hard to see who's out there, actually. Yeah. Oops. Okay, waiting for one person to sit down. Bill, please sit down. Thank you. So, let me just say a few very brief words about process tonight. First, I have to open the meeting as a public hearing, and I will do that. And after that, we will have two separate public hearings, actually. One is for the bond hearing, and one is for the budget discussion / hearing. So if you have any questions about bond issues, and there's interaction and overlap, so there may be a question on one that you need to talk about that could be handled in the other. We understand that. But the first one we'll talk about will be bonds. The way we would like to do this is for Steve to give his presentation, and to answer any questions anybody may have on the topic he is discussing at the time. And so we would ask anybody to try to avoid long preambles and just ask the question. And we will try to answer it, or if we can't at this point in time, we will certainly do that later. So, and the other thing I wanted to say, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Steve, who jumped into a very difficult situation. And this is his first, with Mark's passing, and this is his first attempt to go through this whole town meeting process with the hearing. So please be gentle. I think he'll do fine. Yes.
Thank you.
He's done a great job. Actually, this process for budgeting, which includes bond articles, of course, began way back, some would say, in September of last year, when the department heads get together and, first look at their own departments and then get together with Steve to come up with their requests. And as last year, we asked the department heads to keep to inflation, except where there wasn't a possibility to do so. And that would perhaps apply certainly for questions revolving personnel compensation, staff compensation. So again, thank you to Steve, thank you for town staff. They're all here to answer any questions you have. And if you're not happy, this is all his presentation.
Thank you, Rich.
So let me do the needful and open the public hearing. It is Tuesday, February 10th. If I get that right, it's been a lot of meetings, so they kind of all merged together. I haven't had, Mike, I can't look at my notes. Is it when?
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
That's tomorrow.
Thank you.
That's tomorrow. There's another public hearing tomorrow.
On the cover sheet, it was just labeled as Wednesday. It is in fact Tuesday.
It is Tuesday, unless we want to declare, because you guys can pretty much vote on anything and decide. If you want to decide it's Wednesday, all right. It's up to you guys. But this is a public hearing, and I am the chair, Rich Rita of the Waterville Valley Select Board. Here with me today is Vice Chair Wendy Rathgeber and Select Board Member Dan Bancroft. So we have a quorum. So with that, I will open the public hearing for the bond articles, and then when we're done with that, I will close the hearing, and then we'll go through this process to open the budget hearing. Steve, is there anything I've forgotten that you wanted me to lead off with?
No, I think you hit everything, Rich.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
it away.
All right. So before we get into the actual bond authorizations, I'm going to do a few slides on kind of the history of Waterville Valley's fiscal responsibility, give you a little insight into that from my standpoint and the board's standpoint, look at a slide that talks about the future a little bit, 2026 and beyond, how to remain resilient in this economy, and then we'll start to talk more about the bonds. So without further ado. So the history piece here of Waterville Valley, financially, we've been that of one of very fiscal conservative. We've been very wanting to maintain stability across our core functions, if you will. And I'm talking about the years from 2005 to 2020 or so. As a result, the core services that we offer operated at a pace. We didn't see a lot of spikes in our tax rate. We didn't see a lot of investments and saving for capital reserves. It was pretty steady Eddie over the years with regard to our tax rate fluctuation. Steady borrowing of municipal bonds to pay for capital projects, as well as a mentality to defer a lot of our capital projects, kind of puts us into the state that we've been in for the past 4 years, with our tax rate kind of escalating and our operating budget increasing. The other point here is our user fees for our services, our water and sewer services and our trash services. We've been pretty modest in our increases year over year to those, looking at them maybe once every 3 or 4 years and making minor adjustments hasn't really helped our revenue stream. So the state of the town, where we stand today, our total town's valuation is $742 million. Our municipal tax rate sits at $6.86, and the town's total tax rate is $9.96 per thousand. Just a quick snapshot to give you an idea of how our operating budget and any special warrant articles impact your tax rate. So any additional $742,000 to the overall tax grab is an additional dollar on the rate. This chart here is one that if you've attended budget meetings in the past, you may be familiar with. This is a chart that pretty much depicts what I had just alluded to, where you have the orange line above. That represents the town's total tax rate since 2008 to current, where you see it maintaining, relative stability, a spike in 2021 with the revaluation, and then a sharp drop in 2022 once those numbers were actualized, once that full valuation was realized on the assessing side. The gray line represents the town's municipal rate, pretty much mirroring the total tax rate, if you will. You'll notice a couple of key metrics down below. In 2008, we had a tax rate of $6.73 on the municipal rate, and today we sit at $6.86. So not a lot of fluctuation there, but you'll notice fluctuations in the valuations, right? So your blue lines on this graph represent the town's total valuation, the residential and commercial valuation combined. And you'll notice sharp spikes starting in 21, 22, and continuing with just a modest increase from 24 to 25. Any questions on that data? So when we talk about Waterville Valley and beyond, so in an effort to maintain our long-term operational resiliency and to continue to operate all the services that we have, we feel as though there are a few things that we need to not only focus on this year, but continue to focus on in the outward years. And those are building up our capital reserves. I think the town made an honest effort last year to start contributing to some of our capital reserve funds and creating new capital reserve funds. I think that will be crucial to continue contributing those allocations into a savings mechanism, if you will. But not only contributing to those funds, but to create a policy to use them tactically. We can't just start saving and then not have like an idea of what we're going to do once those reserves get built up to a good amount. So the board and I and our finance team and auditors will work towards a program to kind of give us some guidance on how to use those funds. We need to keep in mind our staffing issues. So I've worked in human resources and business management pretty much my entire career. I've staffed for healthcare agencies. I've hired CNAs and assisted livings at $12 an hour. Nothing has been as challenging as where we are in terms of being able to recruit. I have had roadblock after roadblock trying to fill positions in Dylan's department, in the wastewater department. DPW is becoming increasingly more challenging. So to remain competitive with our benefits and our salaries, I think is crucial. Because even at the rates that we're at right now, we have a hard time filling the roles. And then I think a relatively short-term, but maybe more long-term need is going to be housing to some extent. We're going to have to find some sort of an avenue that we can go down to get our employees closer to the valley, because as it is right now, anyone working outside of the valley, as you all know, tacks on an additional 30 minutes to their commute. So it's, in the day of remote work, a lot of people don't look at that as desirable. But in addition to that, right, what can we do technology-wise to reduce our total staffing portfolio? Is there AI technology? Is there other technology that we can introduce into the community that could, balance that need of staff? And we'll be looking at those options too. I think we also need to focus on our revenues, right? Our revenues, you'll see a chart later in the slide presentation, have remained, again, relatively flat year over year, and that's due to us not really focusing on our user fees. It's due to the state's meals and rooms tax and aid that they provide us not really jumping in a favorable direction ever. So we need to spend some energy looking at other types of external funding sources, whether it's grants or, we need to continue to research low interest rate loans because we're not going to have enough capital reserve funds in the outward years to fund large scale projects. So borrowing is going to continue, but we need to be cognizant of where we're borrowing from and looking at the lowest rate options possible. And then just overall good governance, monitoring, and making sure that the public's informed about what we're doing to generate revenue. So just a quick overview here. We have today seven bond articles that we'll be looking at. Actually 6. The first one there for the wastewater treatment plant funding. As I hope all of you know, we have a big meeting tomorrow night. Same time, same place, where we have invited state agencies, we've invited our engineering firm, we've invited our legal support team, we've invited our financial analysis folks to join us in a public information session to go through where we are today with the wastewater treatment plant project and where we need to be in the outward years relative to that. So we just ask that we keep conversation about that bond authorization to tomorrow if you could, and let's focus on the road projects more or less today. And those road projects are listed there. Megan's going to give you a presentation on each of those segments. So we have Snows Mountain Road, rebuild and waterline. We have a Snows Mountain Road, and keep in mind, we're talking about the ancillary roads up Snows Mountain as well with Jasinski and Greeley Hill. It's inclusive, but we're going to talk about some options that might segment those as well. We're looking to do some engineering on Valley Road for some culverts that have failed. Looking to do some engineering on Lost Pass, Cascade, Ridge, and Beanbender Road. Triple I Road needs some construction from some storm damage that has happened over the past couple of years. And then Dylan's going to talk a little bit about sewer line engineering work that needs to be done because of some freezing issues that we're having on West Branch Road and River Road. After that, we'll go into the proposed 2026 operating budget. We'll talk a little bit about our capital reserve balances, the contributions that we're hoping to make to the capital reserves at town meeting this year, and look at our special warrant articles that we'll be presenting at town meeting. So just a couple of quick definitions. We have bonding authority. So what does it mean when you vote up or down at town meeting on a bond authorization? It doesn't mean that you're giving necessarily the approval for us to go out and grab that entire bond this year. That's not what you're doing. You're giving the board and the town the authority to spend a certain amount of money on a project and to go out and get bonds eventually to help support that project, or also to get grants to help support that project. Just the authority to get the project done with that set amount of money. Municipal bonds has been the avenue that the town has typically gone down when we've bonded and borrowed money for projects. Municipal bonds through the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank have historically had a very low interest rate. I think our largest interest rate on a bond that we have out with the bond bank now is at 3.94%, and that was an authorization last year for the $2.65 million to do some construction, road construction, primarily on Boulder Path, which will be coming up, and also support the purchase of a new ambulance. So the summary here is broken out in dollar amount. I know it might be a little challenging to see, but we have the first article, again, I'd like to save conversation to tomorrow, of $75.2 million for the wastewater treatment plant, additional funding needed to support that project. We have just over $5 million in bonding authorization to help support the project of rebuilding Snows Mountain Road, introducing a new water line into that road. Bonding authorization in the amount of $1.8 million for the sewer line on Snows Mountain Road. Authorization for $221,000 for the engineering work on Valley. $190,000 for engineering work on Lost Pass, Cascade Ridge, and Beanbender. And $120,000 for road repairs on Triple I, and $50,000 for an engineering study to see what we have to do underneath River Road and West Branch Road to rectify the problems we're having with that sewer line. And with that, I will turn it over to Megan to give you a little more detail on what those projects look like and what we'll have to do to accomplish them.
Well, hello, good evening, everybody. Is everybody doing good? Perfect. All right, so just brief overview. Over the past few years, we've seen increasing signs of our infrastructure stress, including pavement deterioration, drainage deficiencies, and aging underground utilities, water lines, sewer lines, things of that nature. That does not include electrical, Wi-Fi, things like that, just to be clear. This presentation is intended just to provide you an overview of the road conditions across town, outline where engineering is recommended, and explain why certain roads are being evaluated. So this is the town map. Since 2022, you have the green, which is all of this here. That is what we have completed to date. Whether that be an overlay, complete box road construction, shim and overlays, reclaim repaves. That is what we've completed since 2022. In the yellow, currently what was funded in 2025, which was Boulder Path, which is likely to take place construction this year. Red, we are asking funding for engineering this year to engineer those roads to continue on with the maintenance of the town. Purple, just the proposed construction dated currently for 2027. Blue is we're still talking about the future planning of it. This is just the schedule that we use internally. Snows Mountain. So Snows Mountain has reached a condition where conventional resurfacing really isn't a consideration anymore. The pavement has deteriorated beyond a point where full depth reconstruction is required, along with the replacement of not only the existing utility, but the potential to add a utility as well. Because of that, it would have to be a full box reconstruction. Replacing that water line is just at the end of its life cycle. So trying to keep things safe for not only y'all, but us as well. We've repaired it multiple times, so just upgrading where we can when needed. Valley Road. So Valley Road is, the most traveled road in town. This specific area that we're talking about is in between Packard's and Village. During the 2023 storm, a very large culvert had failed, thus creating a sinkhole. We've filled it to maintain stability for this moment in time. But we are proposing the engineering costs so that way we can bring it up to modern standards and look at the options that we have in front of us to bring it up to date with the aging infrastructure there. Lost Pass, Cascade Ridge, Beanbender, again, just engineering. They are, experiencing a lot of freeze and thaw effects within the road, a lot of water infiltration due to those thaw and freezing getting into the cracks and just deteriorating not only the base underneath in some areas, but the pavement as well. So we're looking at engineering for these roads so we can determine whether a targeted stability in certain areas is feasible, or resurfacing, or what is required of these roads in the future to bring them up to a safe travel way. Don't know why that picture messed up, but that's okay. Triple I Road, if you have not traveled Triple I Road, I highly encourage it. There are lots of potholes, lots of thawing, and lots of heaving. It's not a very great road to travel. We do have to maintain it for our sake, for public safety, and as an alternate exit route for the town. It is a Forest Service road. but like I said, we are obligated to maintain it, which we are trying to do. Assuming that it's a condition upon the Forest Service approval, we are looking at doing a reclaim and repave on that road to reinforce the base material and then give it a nice new fresh pavement. West Branch and River Road, the engineering, obviously, like Steve had said, we've had a lot of freezing of the sewer line, and Dylan can talk a little bit more to that if you'd like. But it was on previously for 2025. I keep wanting to say this year. It's not this year anymore. It's 2026. But the previous year, due to those issues that we had, we had to push it back to be able to figure out engineering what the best approach would be to stop that freezing. And I'll let Dylan talk to that.
Good evening, everyone. So more or less where this issue stemmed from this goes all the way back to the Well 4 project and water treatment facility project. These houses out on West Branch Road and River Road are inside the wellhead protection area for well number 2. So in making sure we didn't have any contamination of well number 2, there was a low pressure sewer system that was installed to service these houses. It's a combination of issues in tandem with some poor installation practices that led to more or less from its inception freezing issues out on that in that area. The issue with that is we have full-time residents that aren't even able to utilize their bathroom facilities or any facilities that are going to discharge water. Again, I believe back to 2015 there was months on end where the line was frozen solid and the town was just more or less pumping out their grinder pump tanks so that way they could actually use their facilities. I was hoping that Mike Fergal would be here tonight or Margaret Turner would be here tonight to actually be able to connect with that, because those two in particular have lived it basically. So that's okay, but again, this is really going to be a multi-phased approach. The first phase is to identify what's the causing of the freezing. Is it a depth of installation? Is it the sizing of the line is too small? What is the issue? And once that's identified, come up with a list of alternatives. It could be something as simple as installing an internal heat trace in the low pressure sewer system. It could be something as extravagant as having to replace the system with a gravity sewer system, because there's just not a lot of people that live there full time. So there's not a lot of usage on that system. So that's basically what it boils down to.
Perfect. Was there any questions about any of the roads or anything that is proposed? Yeah. So if you could just state your name, come up to the mic.
Stan Picos, Newton Peak Road. Can you go back to your very informative first chart with the
Sure. Which one?
roads?
This one here?
No, the color graph, that's the one.
Okay.
Beautiful. Can you give me a sense for the work completed, i.e. green and yellow? Red is for this year coming up. And the road construction bond, Steve, is 5.8 million? This year?
For Snows Mountain,
The road construction now, the red?
the red is for engineering alone. So
Sorry.
the purple is a proposed construction for 2027, which we're asking for the funding for as well.
So wait a minute, it's the yellow?
Yellow is already allocated in 2025.
All right, here's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get a sense for roads completed versus all the future, relationship between those, and I'm trying to get a sense for the roads you're going to, I know you have to do engineering, but I'm trying to do the construction cost. And do I recall a 5.8 million bond for construction of the road? Construction.
Just about.
Okay,
Yep.
at least I got something
And
right.
engineering.
Don't get old. You'll stay with us. See where I'm going? I'm trying to get an idea of what's in front of us,
Sure.
way out in the future, in terms of miles of road or whatever metric you use, and put it relative to we're going to be spending 5.8 million next year for a certain amount of roads.
So, looking at it that way, though, kind of gives a misconception. So, because of the complications on the current roads that we're proposing, due to the elevation, there's a lot more work and a lot
So
more.
they're going to be more costly.
It's
mile.
more costly. That's why it
Can you
costs
give me a
$5.
sense for the miles anyhow?
Snows Mountain miles? Oh, I wouldn't know that off the top of my head.
The future miles compared to what we've completed.
I will get that and I will bring that to town meeting.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Richard Bordeaux, 9 Bobcat Way. Can you talk a little bit about Triple I Road? How far up Triple I Road are we talking about?
Yeah, so Triple I Road, we're talking about from the intersection of Ski Area Road up to the bridge,
Oh, okay.
the Mad River Bridge, yep.
Lori Fernandez, 22 Flat Mountain. So Triple I Road, we were supposed to, I believe, at the last town meeting last year, the bond meeting, that Mark had said we were going to receive grants to repave that. Did we not receive those?
So I was working through a FEMA program, still working through it with the Valley Road Culvert engineering project that we're putting forward this year. We did ask for Triple I Road with the caveat that we were going to receive that grant money or the reimbursement money. Because of who owns the road, the Forest Service owning the road and us just maintaining it, the government entities of FEMA will not fund us for that road because it is a Forest Service road.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Tom Ennis, 51 Snows Mountain Road. And my question is a general question. When will you be presenting the improvements to each of the roadways, i.e. a plan that shows, is there curbing, are there sidewalks, the cross-section, what's the depth of construction, things like that, and then what is the approval process for these new roadways?
So
Bunch of questions in that.
Yes. So the plans, we just received final design plans. So I'm not 100% sure if we were going to share those or not.
Yes, so the Boulder Path and Snows Mountain Roads, on Monday, actually, Monday morning, we met with town engineers to look at those final plans. We approved those final plans, and the bid went out Monday to see.
So how does I'm assuming selectmen are approving the plans with
Yes.
your consultant, which is not the town engineer, but the consulting engineer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So when does the public have an opportunity to comment on the improvements that are being made to the roads?
During the meeting, which was noticed.
All right, and that's the only time that the public has a chance to review those plans?
No, you can, go ahead.
Sorry, we had previous meetings, especially on Boulder Path Road, because there was quite a lot of discussion about that. I'm sure some folks remember who were there, and what side of the road the sidewalk would fall. We had, I don't know.
We actually had a public
hearing.
hearing on Boulder Path before we asked
Is that
last
through the
year.
selectmen meetings or the planning board meeting? I'm just
No,
curious.
no, that's
because-
all select board.
Okay.
That's all select
So
board.
if I wanted to, because I wasn't here at that time, if I wanted to see those plans, how would I go about doing it?
I think just contact town staff. They are public documents.
And they're at the town?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
they're digital. I mean, we can certainly send anybody the digital link to the plans.
Oh,
Sure.
okay, great. So, and I also wanted to know about what is the town's standard depth of construction for the roadways?
For full depths?
Yes.
So, again, that's a very variable sense. A standard is roughly 2 feet base.
Okay.
And then you have 4 inches of pavement.
Okay. So, because I'm concerned because in the past, things were supposedly built to standards and then we found out later that they weren't even close to standards. So that sounds.
Yeah, and I mean, that could be a variety of different things, meaning it could be subpar material that was used, and DOT specs change over time, so it could have been the spec at the time, and now it's changed to a different spec, so it could be a variety of different things.
All right. So in the future, just so I know, when you do roadway improvements, it goes to selectmen, basically one meeting, and that's
No, there are many meetings, actually, we discuss
as
it.
it goes through? Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Perfect. Skip to that next one. Oh, too much.
That's good.
So, I mean, this basically concludes the bond hearing portion of our discussion tonight. I don't know if Wendy or Dan had any comments they'd like to meet, but those are the bonds that we will be putting forth, and the necessary legalese. We didn't want to put up every one with the long paragraphs of what we have to say to meet legal requirements on those. So do you want to just put up the bond requests slide that you have? I just want to make sure that if there are, any other questions, you can see they're almost all, I think it's next one, yeah, they're almost all, well, I think they're all roads except for the first one, which we'll be discussing tomorrow, and the seventh one, which is more of a sewer line issue as opposed to a road issue. So this is your opportunity to advise the select board of your thinking on these bond articles, whether it's the overall cost or the actual plans to do these roads. We are all ears. Okay, yes, yeah, come on down.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, they're not on the ballot in the day.
Yeah.
They are part of the deliberative session in the evening where we discuss them further. That work? Get it? Okay.
Craig Larson, 30 Snows Mountain Road. I've been going to selectmen meetings about Boulder Path. I'm assuming Bill came by and brought the map over and whatnot. Are you going to bid on the Snows Mountain Road?
We've decided to, and I'll let Megan.
'Cause I have not seen that plan.
So,
Yes.
So Greg, the plans that Bill sent you are the same plans that were sent out?
There were no drainage on that plan that he sent me. None
You
whatsoever.
wanting- There was drainage on
No, it
that
was
plan.
not.
Well, we'll get you. Okay, we will get you the latest plans, Craig, but yes, we decided after talking to the engineers that it made sense because of the sewer line issue to combine both projects, one of which we already have authorization for.
Right, that's what I
That's
heard.
Boulder, and Snows Mountain, which we're asking for.
But the drainage on
Right.
Snows Mountain is I made it that point very clear a
Yes.
number of times. The plan that when Bill came over and we talked about it, he didn't understand what I was asking about, but I think he does now. He did not have those on the plan.
As I recall, and we
I looked
certainly
at
can,
it.
those
He
are.
showed it to me.
Those digital files are available.
He showed it to me. There was no drainage whatsoever.
As I recall from our meeting with the engineers, and Megan, please correct me, or anybody actually, the drainage in terms of the flow of water is not going to change,
Yes,
is the
you-
bottom line. Go
Right,
ahead.
he very specifically said that the drainage amount that ends up at the bottom of the road will stay that same volume.
I
It needs to be
would-
directed to
we're-
not eat away the road as it goes down.
Right, but I'm more concerned about an environmentally safe way of getting that water off the road and onto my property. I requested that it's very common when you build roads to have oil water separators on those cul-de-sacs. And he didn't even know what I was talking about. My concern is, we had a truck fire on that road. Those things go directly right, with no filter whatsoever, right onto my property, right into our irrigation ponds. If we didn't know what was going on, I'd have a major problem.
Right. So as I understand.
So I asked specifically for a couple of items. So if you're sending them out to bid without saying that you did it, how do I know? I have gone to a number of selectmen meetings. I can't go to them all because, you're only doing it every hour of the day practically. So I have gone to a number of them, and I still have not seen a set of plans in my hands. On Boulder, I have seen them, and we've talked about road cuts and drainage and whatnot on that.
Right.
On Snows Mountain, I was very specific about the water coming down that hill.
Yes, and we did address it at the meeting yesterday.
So is it fixed or not As
Wendy said, and as my understanding as well, that the water will not change the amount of water coming
It's
down.
not the amount of water, it's how the water gets to.
There is no, if you're asking about oil-water separation, that's not a requirement in New Hampshire. It may be in Massachusetts, so that is not part of the plan.
You understand, if I had an accident on any of that road, all that, if there was a tank that was exploding or whatever, all that diesel or gas would come right down that road, and we would have a hell of a time trying to fix that problem.
Yes, I mean, we.
And it's a simple
we're aware of
fix
it.
on the drainage
Right.
things, and it's done in every other state that I've ever been in.
It's not a requirement in New Hampshire, Craig.
I'm not asking for requirements, I could care less about requirements, I'm asking, specifically ask for a request.
Right, and that's not part of the, not
So
part
you're
of the
not,
plan.
I ask and ask and ask, and you do nothing, right? Is that what you're saying?
No,
to me?
that's not correct.
Yes, it is.
I think
Because
I
I've
gave you
asked
the answer.
specifically for this.
Okay, we hear your point. Thank you, Craig.
No, I don't, if you hear my point, I would like it either fixed or some kind of remediation, one or the
Well,
other.
we hear your point, but there's only so much we can do in terms of.
It's a
of course we
simple
wouldn't want-
culvert fix. It's not expensive.
Hold on, Craig. Go ahead, Wendy.
We took your request under advisement, and we're making sure that you get the volume of water. That was the main thing that you kept asking about. We can't necessarily predict where any trucks are going to catch fire in town, and
You can
Envy.
design these roads so that they're environmentally safe as you physically can be.
well, that's what we're doing.
No, you're not. That's why I've
We-
asked
we-
you about this.
Again, we are following what's required of
And I
us
did
by-
bring it up
by
to Bill,
New
I
Hampshire.
brought it up to the
Right.
board, and now you're saying that the final plans are all done. I guess I would like to see it. I asked to be, Mark told me I could talk to the engineer. I have yet to talk to the engineer.
Right.
And I would specifically, it's a big point. It's in the
Right.
hundreds
Well,
of thousands of dollars if I have a problem.
We understood your major point was involved volume of water, and we did talk to the engineers about that, and they assured us that the drainage system that they are putting in will not impact the volume of water, will not lessen it. I guess that's the point, right?
That's
So we
one
were paying
point.
attention
That's
to
one
what you
point,
asked
yes.
for. With regard to the latter point about, oil or diesel fuel, what have you, getting into that, no, there's nothing in the plan that involves oil-water separation. And you're welcome to look at the digital plans. We can send them to you. And, this is an iterative process, too. I mean, we're putting it out to bid, but that doesn't mean that there won't be, and frankly, there always are changes, amendments to what goes forward. But we needed the move. Our main goal was to get in front of town meeting on, somebody help me, 10 March?
Yes.
I think it is. 10 March, a really solid number that we received, that we have an agreement with a company through the bid process rather
Right.
than an estimate is what
But
we
in
have
general,
now.
you're saying that you talked to the last gentleman about these, when can we look at these things? And you said at select meetings. Well, I've gone to select meetings and asked these things. And I
Craig,
just,
we did not have the plans at the time when you requested.
it was only 3 weeks ago.
I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah, it was Monday that we got them.
I myself downloaded them this weekend. Okay? I
I-
just got them.
All right. I'm just saying, before we
So-
vote on them, I would like to look at the plans.
You can.
Yes, I will.
You can.
And I will speak at town meeting whether or not they should be voted
Of
or at
course.
least amended, right? And
Of
you said,
course.
can these contracts be amended as they were written?
Well, the warrant articles will be amended, but whatever is approved by town meeting is what we will go forward with. But as you well know, as we saw with Tecumseh and Valley and Snows Brook, when the road work begins, there are a multitude, unfortunately, of amendments that have to be made to the initial
I just
contract.
think there's a lot of water coming down that hill, and it's only going one spot. It stops at my property and then eventually goes to the Mad River. I would hate to see an environmental hazard come down that hill and not be stopped, I guess.
All right?
I think the place to stop it is on the road. It's very simple. Water and oil separate.
All right, thank you.
So, look, I'm just saying, I go to meetings.
You do. There's no one's contesting it.
Hi, Tom Ennis, 51 Snows Mountain Road. I just kind of want to follow up on that. To be quite honest, if you're asking us to vote on something, a bond, I really think you should have had a set of the plans so we could see them on the screen of what you're doing. It could be as simple as a cross-section and a plan that shows, is there curbing? Is there a sidewalk?
As you well know, that plan is, I don't know, how many pages long? It's a detailed
No, wait a
site
minute.
engineering
That's
it's
not how it
available
works.
for you to look
Wait,
at.
You don't need to do that. All you need is
Yeah.
a simple graphic that shows a cross-section, cut through the road, and then a plan that shows either the whole thing or a section of it that would show, is there a sidewalk? Is there a curb? What's the width of the roadway, et cetera. So it's basically a very simple drawing and diagram that could easily be presented to us so we know what we're looking at. I also would request the town in the future to do a better job for the citizens to be able to see what the improvements are so we can have more of an ability to comment on them.
Thank you.
I'd like a response to the various things I've said.
We will decide what we want to present at town meeting after the public hearing. The whole purpose of the public hearing is to hear what the concerns and the questions that folks have, and we will decide whether or not we want to provide a more detailed discussion of Snows Mountain Road engineering.
And I'm not
engineering.
asking for you to do a big, huge presentation. It should be very easy to put that together. But I also think it should be done before town meeting, because I've gone to many town meeting, and then you almost get the feeling when you comment, oh, it's too late to make a comment, because now it's a town meeting, and we've had all these meetings previous. So that's my concern and I guess my gripe about the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Randall Breckner, Mountain Meadow Condominium. I had a couple of questions about bond interest. I understand that the last bonding interest was 3.9%, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
That's
What is the present interest rate environment for municipal loans for towns like ours?
The January sale with the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank produced a rate of 3.46% on a 20-year loan.
So that's about what we'd be expecting with these bonds?
I can't answer that. I hope it continues to come down.
All right, all right.
There are 2 times a year that the bonds are actually.
Yeah, January and again in August. They do 2 sales a year.
Now, you've got 7 different bonds up there, as I understand it. Would the expectation be that the interest rate would be the same on all 7, or would, for example, number 1, which is a very high amount, be a higher interest rate or lower interest rate, whatever? Would there be a variation, an expectation for a variation in interest rates according to the size and purpose of the bond?
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine us take the first one out of the equation altogether.
Right.
That we're going to look at different funding sources for that project tomorrow.
Okay.
But with respect to the road and sewer projects, I wouldn't imagine the town going out in one sale for all of that money. I think it would be sequenced into multiple sales. So I think you would see a fluctuation in the rates.
And what, I'm a little uncertain as to what would cause a fluctuation in the rates. If the bond rates are only adjusted twice a year, you said, Rich?
There's
Well, the
2
sales occur twice a year.
There's 2 sales a year, and the interest rate is really dependent on what the size of the sale and what type of investors they get in, so it's a lot of unknowns there. I just know that the trajectory is going in a good direction for us at 3.94 last year in the August sale, and they just had a sale in January at 3.46.
In general, is the higher the bond, the lower interest rate? Is there any relationship between the amount of the bond and the expected interest rate?
Yes, so
what is the relationship?
the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank tries to capture as many bonds as they can into their sales from all different towns throughout the state.
So we're bundled.
It's a big pool of money that goes out. The variation that we see.
Oh, so we're in the stew with all the other bonds?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the variation that we see is largely dependent on the length of the term. So if we, a 5-year term, we typically see less of a rate than a 20-year term, for example.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right, any other, oh, please.
This is just a financial, Donna Hansa, Osceola. How much of all these bonds is being covered by any reserves the town has? Have you planned ahead? That's what I'm asking.
Yes, and we'll be talking about that in our budget discussions.
Okay, but you do have reserves to offset some of these?
No.
No, okay. The 75 million, is that the number with the grants that you might be getting?
No.
Or is that?
Well, that's the total number.
Is that
We'll
the
talk
top
about
number?
this tomorrow. We'll talk about this.
Okay, but is that the top number?
As it stands
Because I've
right
heard
now.
up to 120 million.
Well,
So
no,
we're
that's-
like panicking.
So what happened was back, is what, 2 years ago or 3 years ago? I'm forgetting now. Everything starts to merge.
3 years ago.
We got, I'm sorry?
3 years ago.
3 years ago, the town approved an authorization of $42 million.
Right, I remember that.
So this is in addition to that authorization. So you take the 42, add the 75, and that's where you come with, what, 117?
You're getting up there, yeah. And there's nothing in reserves to cover it. That's why you're
That's
doing the
correct.
bonds, okay.
The town.
I'm a banker,
Yeah.
that was a mistake.
Well, the town pursued a policy with low interest rates of not building reserves. I think that you saw the chart that was presented about that interest rate, excuse me, that town municipal tax rate over a long period of time. We did not build reserves.
You should
when we had the
rethink that
opportunity.
policy.
We are currently,
Well,
we're
we-
doing
go
that.
ahead.
So maybe that's the right segue into the budget hearing, right? Because
Well, I
you'll
think we
see
can
how we're
segue
doing
into
that,
the
yes.
budget hearing, but yes, we
Because you'll
started
see how
last
we're
year.
doing that.
Based on a sense of the meeting vote at town meeting. But there's a big difference in people's position about paying for something now that won't come to fruition 20 years from now.
But this is going to hurt.
It is indeed. Yes,
Alan Burko, Jennings Peak Road. What's the longest bonding we could think about for this?
depends.
For our road
No,
construction?
for the wastewater treatment plant.
Again, we'll talk about a lot of different options tomorrow. I can tell you that I've seen revenue bond options in the outward years of 40 years.
And what does that do to the rate?
It'll all be displayed tomorrow. And if you can't make it, it's being recorded and live streamed as well. Well, I'll leave it to the experts. Our financial analysis will do a lot of discussion on that.
Is there anybody else who wants to talk about bond issues? Again, this is your opportunity to have at us.
Yes, I'm Jeff Lander from North Face Condos. So, just in terms of context, so if we look at items 2 through 7, it's about $7.5 million. I used to be better at math in my head, but I'm not so about 7.5. What does that equate to with 3.4, let's say 3.5%, 30-year bonds? What's the debt service and how does that trickle down into what the impact is on our real estate taxes?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that isn't something we've historically done a great job as a town, displaying that at town meeting. And I do have a presentation on our debt service in the outward slides, if you can wait just a few
On
minutes.
the budget hearing, right, we will
Yep.
talk about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else on the bonds we are proposing? Does the board have anything that it would like to say on the bonds at this point?
Oh, one tiny
Please.
thing. For the meeting tomorrow, there will be a lot of information. So please, if you can, bring a pen and pencil to make note of your questions, because tomorrow we will be asking to hold questions until the end, and there's going to be a lot. So it'd be better if you come prepared.
Pencil and paper, well, pencil's fine, we'll have paper in the presentation, but no rotten fruit, please. Okay, so I think I see nobody who wants to discuss this further. So I will entertain a motion from the board to close our bond hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you very much. And now we will move to the 2026 operating budget public hearing. So I will open that public hearing with the consent, unanimous consent of the select board. And Steve, I will turn it over to you.
Good, thank you, Rich. So in your budget packet, that if you grabbed one on your way in, I just gave you a quick snapshot of what you'll find in there. On pages 1 to 3, you'll find the summary for the town's year-over-year budgetary impacts. You'll see pages 4 to 8, you're going to have a little more detail on what makes up that summary. On pages 9 to 11, you're going to see our revenues year-over-year. And then finally, on pages 12 to 16, you'll see our capital improvements plan for the next 6 years. The additional document I provided this year that we haven't historically provided was even a further breakdown of our operating budget with some footnotes on it. I don't know if you recall, but a couple of years ago, we brought in a new finance software into Town Hall that is really geared towards municipal budgeting, and that gives us the opportunity to create some history in our budgeting, and that's what you're seeing there, a little more granular view of what makes up the operating budget. So I hope you find that informative. I'm also going to try to build into that our 2025 actual spend amounts to provide a little more context to what you're seeing there.
Yeah, that's actually a very long document, right? So it can be accessed.
I posted it online as well on our website.
Right.
Yep. Again, a couple of definitions. So when we're talking about our operating budget, what is it, right? So it's a financial plan that basically spells out what our expected expenses and revenues are for a fiscal period. We'd follow a calendar-based fiscal year. We'll talk about appropriations a little bit, and appropriation is just a formal legislative authorization that allows the government, your town, to spend money, a specific amount of public funds. I thought this might be helpful. So these two pie charts depict, the one on the left is showing you what our 2025 approved budget looked like in terms of its capacity broken out by departments. So you'll see our debt service in 2025 was 12.8% of our total operating budget. Our administrative services and miscellaneous expenses were 20.2% of our total operating budget. Roads, buildings, and municipal solid waste was 18%. A small sliver there at 2.5% for community support. Public safety was 23.5%. Wastewater, 14.6%. And the Parks and Recreation Department, 8.4%. So when we look at this proposed budget, the breakdown is pretty similar, but you're going to see how the debt service increase contributes to the overall variations in the other departments. So with an elevated debt service, you're going to see admin and miscellaneous come up a little bit because there were some primary drivers to the overall increase in admin. However, in buildings, roads, and municipal solid waste, it comes down slightly. Public safety comes down slightly, and rec comes down 0.5% as well. So this view here is essentially what you'll find, I believe, on page 3 at the bottom of your budget summary. So this shows the breakdown of what our 2025 operating budget looked like, what we're proposing for 2026, what the net change is. We talk about bonded projects last year at $2.4 million. We talk about our fiscal 2026 proposed budget at 7.4 and the change there. And then we're looking at our other warrant articles. So at the end of this presentation, you'll see, just our other special warrant articles contributing $763,000 last year to a proposed $792,000 this year, bringing our total appropriations last year to be about $9.8 million and $15.7 in '26, a net change of $5.9 million. And then when you factor in our estimated revenues, along with some fund balance use that the board is proposing to do this year, you get a net effect that provides you with your total amount of taxes to be raised. So we look at last year, it's a $5 million ask. This year is a $5.6 million ask, which is the net effect of $630,000. And that's the number that right now estimates the tax rate impact for 2026 potentially. So what's driving the increase this year? So there are a couple of primary drivers. We're looking at wages and personnel driving the increase. We're looking at debt service being a big contributor to that. Our taxes, insurances, and retirement rates have gone up slightly. Some other that we'll talk about, and legal and IT support as well drove the operating budget up this year. So let's first talk about personnel. Right, so the personnel costs are contributing $296,000 of the elevation to the 2026 budget. We're looking at wages up by about $220,000. $129,000 of that elevation is due to our COLA increase. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the COLA increase because the board and the town worked pretty aggressively 3 years ago, 2021, to create a new staffing plan. Prior to 2020, the town purely followed CPI in the New England region to dictate what the staffing's increases were that year. So from 2005 to 2020, there were many years where we saw sub 2, sub 1 in some circumstances, increases to our wages. So 0.5% some years, 1% other years, and unfortunately what that did was it compounded over time to the fact that we weren't able to keep up with the surrounding community's wages. So it did us a disservice, and in 2021, we're trying to rectify that problem. And to do that, the board decided that we'll continue to follow what CPI is doing in the New England region, but we're going to add 1% to that. So CPI in New England, I think effective, the November numbers was at 3.1%. When we add the percent to bring the wages back to a competitive rate, the 4.1% is the net effect. In addition to that, the board also in the town thought it would be a good idea to put in some escalators at certain milestones. So we see when our employees reach their 5-year milestone, rather than that 1% being added to CPI, they're getting an additional 2.5%. So the folks that are hitting their, I think there's 4 of them, 5, me included, 5 employees hitting their 5-year mark this year who would be eligible for a 5.6% increase compared to a 4.1. In addition to COLA, we're looking at an increase into the police department's wage budget of about $36,000. And this is, I think, a fortunate problem to have. We do have an employee who will be retiring in April or May, but we also have a new recruit who started in January, and she right now is going through the academy and getting her certification. So we're carrying 2 wages for a half of a year to support her getting her licensure. Rather than using overtime to offset that expense, we're using a flat wage, which is, I think, a good problem. We're looking at a $33,000 increase to the wastewater plan and a $22,000 increase to the administrative plan. Now let's talk about a new line that we haven't had historically, but I think it's important for us to consider, is a recruiting line in our operating budget. You see $50,000 and you might think, wow, that's a big number, right? I do too. However, when we're trying to recruit for a qualified candidate for a new town manager, we're seeing a lot of out-of-state applicants come in. We're seeing a lot of applicants come in that are not in the general area. So the board and I thought it would be a good idea to bolster that or beef up that line a little bit this year in anticipation of a potential relocation expense or a sign-on bonus or some kind of a mechanism to attract a good quality candidate into town. That coupled with getting creative around wastewater. I don't have the answer right now to what we're going to do to fill those positions, but to have a little financial backing to explore alternative mechanisms is, I think, a good thing to do. And then retention expenses, right? So the town has historically had a merit program. And for many, many years, that program was a $10,000 figure. That figure would support the bonus for the town manager annually, which has historically been $3,000 to $5,000, and then some other monies to recognize either department heads or one-time bonuses to hourly employees. I recommended to the board that we up that a little bit so that we can provide more recognition to our full-time hourly employees, as well as give a little more benefit to the town manager and department directors. So I'm requesting an additional $26,000 to that plan. Offer the opportunity to answer any questions on personnel.
Katie Smith, Boulder Path. You did not go through the 33 and the 22,000 for the wastewater administration. Can you tell us more about those two?
Yeah, sure. So the $33,000 represents an increase to the director's salary, along with supporting the 2 vacant positions. A little complicated. So last year's budget had 2 new wastewater operators. Sorry. one at a half a year and one at 3/4 of a year, because we hadn't filled those positions come town meeting, and the likelihood of us doing so was slim. So we did a half year and a 3/4 year. This year, we're budgeting for 2 3/4 year salaries. The administrative plan increasing $22,000 was associated to a promotion with the assistant town manager position, as well as upping the town manager's salary slightly to get more in line with what the current rate is.
I have a follow-up. Hold on, I gotta look at my number. So in the wastewater treatment, there was 76 or 75,000 that wasn't spent this year already. And so you're saying that 76 plus the 30 is going to cover the two-third time employees that we haven't hired?
Plus the increase to the director's rate.
On the first screen, it said you're not including this year the wastewater plant, that money? Even though, if you look, it was on the top, you didn't kind of mention it, but it said, in that debt services, that is not included. Is there a reason for that?
So the wastewater treatment plant authorization is purely to fund the new construction of a new plant.
Right.
We're talking about...
Not in 2026, then?
No. We're
Okay.
hoping by 2031 to have that plan.
Okay, fine.
Yep.
That answers it.
You're welcome. Any other questions relative to personnel?
I think, Steve, you should say not hoping, we're planning to have this done by 2031.
Thank you, Dan.
The reality is that the wastewater treatment plant is something that will indeed have to happen.
All right, so the next slide focuses on debt service. So the elevation to our debt service this year was due to that bond borrowing that I mentioned earlier. That was for the $2.6 million to do some road projects. We haven't completed Boulder Path yet, obviously. Part of that is because we're maybe tying that into Snows Mountain. And the other portion of that money was to fund half of the ambulance that we took custody of in October, Dave? Or December? Okay. So what that looks like is, so the $2.6 million borrowing caused an elevation to our principal payment to $173,000 up to $714,000. Interest rose $97,000 to $412,000, making our total debt service payment for 2026 $1.13 million.
I want to go back to what tangentially I think was said. I was under the impression that we had as we used to say, a date certain when we were supposed to be operational with the new water treatment plant, not a hopefully time frame, or am I mistaken?
No, but we'll talk all about that tomorrow.
But you mentioned it 5 minutes ago.
Well, the question was asked about that, but there's a very involved briefing tomorrow at 6 o'clock here that will talk about, among other things, the dates for this commissioning of the new plant. But right now, yes, we're looking at March, I think, of 2030, 31. But again, let's save that discussion until tomorrow.
Early in the discussion, please.
Sir, I forgot your name, but you had a question about what the impact potentially could be with these bond authorizations in the outward years. So I've got a couple of graphs here, right? So this first graph indicates what happened this year. So last year, our debt service was at $850,000. We took that loan in August. Our debt service rose to $1.1 million this year, and that shows what it's projected to do in the outward years under the assumption we're not borrowing any more money right now. This next slide illustrates what could happen essentially if we borrow some of that money. I think I based this on a borrow of next year for $4.6 million at a 3.1 rate over 20 years. What would happen is you're looking at your debt service now at 1.12, it would elevate to 1.5, right? And again, these are hypothetical numbers because we don't have anything authorized yet. We don't even have the true figures yet. We're waiting for that bid process to finalize, and then hopefully we'll have some more concrete numbers then.
Darrell Fernandez, 22 Flat Mountain Road.
Hey, Darrell.
Thanks, Steve. Just on the last slide.
Yep.
Has there ever been a year that we didn't have a bond request? Whew.
Not that I can remember.
So I don't think this is a fair slide to ever show. So I asked if there was ever been a year we didn't have a bond request. It's not a fair slide to show, because that's never going to be the case.
Oh, are you talking about the decline in the outward years?
Yeah, like that's misleading the audience that we can do this and still see some downward trajectory. We're not going to do that.
Well, no, this is saying that if you don't approve any of the bond articles that are requested, this is what will.
Oh, I thought he said in the out years if we don't do any future borrowing.
Well, no, that is correct, Carol. That's what you're seeing there. That's a big assumption. I agree.
It's not a valid assumption. It's not. Like, you can't show me a year in the last 20 that we haven't borrowed money. So I just think we have to, as a select board, as a town management, we have to be more honest with people about what we should expect. And if you're going to show this illustratively, I would be really clear that we don't ever expect this to happen.
And Darrell, if you look at the chart after this.
I saw it, Dan, but this is where you started the conversation, was not in a realistic place. This is utopia. So if you're going to paint utopia, then that's not a real conversation.
We're not painting utopia, and I take great exception to saying that we're not being honest. This was an attempt to show what the baseline is now.
Have we ever not borrowed?
No, as far as I know,
So are we illustrating something that shows we wouldn't borrow going forward?
Borrowing. That's the point.
So I have a question. Who on the select board believes we won't borrow in the next 5 years?
No, I think we're going to borrow every year, but this is the starting point. I don't know what your complaint is.
It's a starting point that's not realistic.
Well, it's a foundation. It's a foundation that we're building on.
I'll defer to the floor on this one. This is the kind of thing that happens every year at this meeting, where we paint a picture that looks better than it is, and then people approve a whole bunch of stuff, and then we come back next year and wonder how we got here. And if we're going to do that again, we're going to be in the same place next year. The next slide is great, by the way. So thank you for the next
Sorry
slide.
for the confusion, Darrell.
It's no confusion. I get what we're doing. I just think we need to be a lot clearer when we're painting these kind of pictures.
Thank you.
Sit down, buddy. You went too easy on him. His point has not been registered. Since I spoke to you guys in March about this 2025 budget, which, by the way, you'll hear congratulations. You spent 300 grand less than that heart-wrenching budget that we approved in March. That's great, okay? The whole point here, and the whole point when I asked the good questions of your beautiful roadmap, we're trying to get a feel for what's in front of us. So aside from apparently a shock to some here, this $78 million, $120 million, some of us knew about this coming, okay? Well, some of us knew it coming at 20 million, 40 million, 120 million, and I'm not sure we knew that.
Why did you know this?
Because I've been in budget meetings and what have you.
Because we've talked about it.
You talked about it, but the explanations, as I'll explain tomorrow night, Rich, weren't there on how we got there, okay? Do you want to have that conversation now?
Well, that conversation about the plant is tomorrow.
Okay. You just interrupted me on this. I was trying to explain, I think, the picture that Darrell was trying to paint. The picture I was trying to paint with what do we have in front of us for roads. Now, I realize the cost of roads is going up and what have you, but it's a big item. So if we've done 20% of our roads and, for $5 million or something like that, some of us can extrapolate. And it can extrapolate 20-year money. And by the way, let me tell you something. Don't count on interest rates going down. This is the most screwed up financing environment we've ever had. When the Feds sit there and lower the short-term rate in the same afternoon, long-term rates go up. There's a message there, okay? You may see 3.94 again or 4.1. It's just an unclear planning environment. We're all trying to get a picture of what's in front of us, Rich, okay? And these kind of slides, including that slide you had up at first about our tax rate going down, That's because we had a 40% revaluation, okay? What you should have put on that slide, not the tax rate per thousand, but what we're spending for tax increases to keep this government going, okay? That's the important information. I tried to make that clear to you, because you fought me on my responses in March, that you guys have approved 3 years in a row, 3 years in a row last March, of 16% per year increases in town municipal expenses. And as you'll hear in a moment, what you put in front of us today, year-to-year spending increase, your 26 budget over what you spent in 25, 300 grand less than your approved budget. Congratulations. You're asking us for 15.5% again.
Thank you.
I think I agree with you, Darrell, and Stan, you make some valid points. One thing that I tried to do last year with our capital improvement committee is I tried to get them to be a little more intentional in their efforts to figure out what the actual condition is of some of our equipment that we own in town, the condition of our facilities, in an effort to really, I think, pay a little more attention to our capital improvement plan. There have been many years where I've worked here and I think, oh, well, where's the new public safety department and the new town hall on our CIP? And they're just, I don't think we weren't as honest on that plan as we should be. And it's an effort of mine, and the CIP committee's been great. I wish someone was here from it tonight, but, oh, Kathy, thank you. And I think that we're just going to continue to build on that committee and build on that plan, and hopefully you can look at that, Darrell, Stan, and get a sense of what the outward year's borrowing might look like. I mean, you're not going to be able to tie necessarily any interest rates to it because of all the volatility to that, but it will give you an idea of what big projects we have coming up.
To that point, let me add one comment. The transparency of the numbers and what have you is the best I've seen in 30 years of involvement here. Kudos to that gentleman right there. And I mean transparency. He asked questions, he's answered them, he's taken calls. There's a lot of people I can look at who, when I write to them, I don't hear about, okay? He does. He's not trying to hide anything. He's living in a transparent world, and that's important where you're facing numbers like these. Keep it up. Great job.
Thank you, Stan. So the last item, the last driver, if you will, to what's compiling a pretty significant increase to the operating budget this year is insurances. So we have, our overall insurances are up about $72,000, 3% in health and dental. Workers' comp, unfortunately, we had a pretty lengthy claim last year, spiking that number up. Property and liability's gone up a little bit as well. Our New Hampshire retirement system contributions are spiking up a little bit, and then our Social Security and Medicare taxes have gone up $15,000. Katie?
Did you go out to bid for another workman's comp plan or another liability plan?
No.
Why not?
That's a pretty challenging task, and honestly, we had a challenging year last year staffing-wise. That's just something that would fall onto my plate. It's definitely something I would not be opposed to looking at. I know that Primex has been our insurance carrier for the past 3 to 4 years.
We've done that in the past. We've tried another carrier, and we returned to Primex because they have been the best available.
But you have a workman's comp increase of 60%. That's a large workman's comp increase.
It is.
I bid ours out every other year, so we need to bid it out and see what else is out there.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so this next slide is interesting, right? So this talks a little bit about what I opened up this presentation with, is our continued use of fund balance to, Carl, artificially lower the tax rate, right? So it's not necessarily typical to be talking about escalations to your tax rate at town meeting. Now, you all want to have a sense of what your warrant articles and what your new budget's going to do to your rate come September. But you elect a board. You need to realize that you do elect a board to manipulate that tax rate in September, right? So the board has the authority to contribute surplus or fund balance to reduce your tax rate in September. And they also have the authority to make recommendations on how special warrant articles are funded, either through general taxation at town meeting, capital reserves, or fund balance. This town has taken a historical approach to kind of blend that. So, you know, a third through general taxations and 2/3 through fund balance or what have you. And these numbers kind of depict the usage of fund balance over the course of the past 5 or 6 years. You'll see one outlier, right? It was last year where we didn't contribute anything to fund balance to lower the rate. So the board recommends $205,000 of fund balance use this year, and you'll see that painted out on some of our special warrant articles in a slide to follow. The town's surplus, as of right now, our unaudited 2025 surplus is strong, as you all can imagine. We weren't successful in filling some positions. The department heads did a great job, you know, with their budgets, so we're looking at about a $425,000 contribution to our surplus, again, unaudited. The board's recommendation is to use about half of that at town meeting to offset some of the special warrant articles. Now, if that happens, the town's surplus will remain at about $1 million, which is right in the sweet spot of what DRA recommends. 1.6 on the high end, down to about 700,000 on the low end, based upon all of our tax issuances. So they take the county taxes that we pay into consideration, the local ed, state ed, and the municipal taxes, and there's a formula that they build out into that. So again, I just contradicted myself, right? This isn't really what town meeting or the budget hearing should necessarily be about, but it has been, and I'm not going to change our trajectory this year. And we're looking at a tax rate impact, if everything was approved at town meeting as it stands right now, of about 85%, right? We have heard at the school board meeting last night that they're projecting an 8% reduction, which equates to about a 77-cent increase per thousand. And then we just map out a couple of scenarios of what that looks like. $770 annually on a $1 million home, $385 on a $500,000 home. Before I go into capital reserves, are there any other questions on our operating budget?
Can you detail what's in line item 4135800? You have a $100,000 budget and it says other miscellaneous expenses. It's under executive.
That's our contingency line? No? 100,000? Should be
What's
contingent.
the line number again? I'm sorry, Katie. 4135?
4135800, 95,000 this year, 100, you spent 58.
Yep. It is the contingency fund.
Oh, you're right, sorry. What'd you spend it on?
Contingency, historically, I know that we had a lot of spend in '25 on recruiting, because Indeed is a mechanism that we've used to try to recruit. We have a monthly subscription with them. I don't know, Katie, if you can find any other big components to what the contingency expense was in 2025, but if you could take a look at that. And
may have been part of it, too.
Sorry, I can't recall.
Craig Larson, Snows Mountain Road. Back to your closed out accounts. One more. So last year, we didn't take any of the money that was on the closed out accounts to put down toward your taxes. And this year, there's 425,000, and you're going to do 205, which is right there's discretion.
Mm-hmm.
Especially last year, I thought that was really not a good idea. And I don't think that the 425 is should all go 100% toward your tax reduction. There's some items on this budget that appear to me that are on the budget that never, ever have intending to ever pay down. And that, I look at them as kind of like a mini slush fund, because you're appropriating money for small amounts, and it all adds up to $425,000. I don't, I understand, but we come to town meeting to literally approve the budget. And that now it's going to be $200,000 can be spent anywhere without our approval, basically. And that's what happens.
Well, with the special warrant articles, as presented on the,
Looking at the 425.
So go ahead, Steve.
with the 205, there'll be recommendations on the special warrant articles of what we're planning to use surplus to fund. So the town, you do have the ability to, vote up or down, or even, I believe, they have the ability to make a change to how it's being funded. You could say, no, I don't want surplus. I want that to be funded through general taxation. So you have the ability there. The 425 is a big number, Craig. I agree with you. That looks to me like, oh, wow, the town didn't know what they were doing during their budget season.
Well,
But
it doesn't know what they're doing. They appropriated more money than they spent.
Right.
Which is a good thing. And you have to appropriate money in order to spend it. That's what we're here for. But if you kind of fudge those numbers just so you could keep that, that's where I see it. It's a slippery slide.
We're not trying to fudge numbers, Craig. Of that 425,000, was it 250,000 of it was because we did not fill the two positions we had
I
hoped to
understand
fill.
that.
So you subtract
That's
that.
how that's where the
Right.
425 is coming
And
from
that's
versus past
the
years.
estimate in March, and then by the time we get to
There are
October,
other items on the budget that historically never, ever been used.
please bring them up at town meeting. Or if you want to bring them up now.
Well, Craig, a big one is contingency. Fortunately, the past few years, we haven't had to dip into that contingency line, as Katie just pointed out. I think there was a $50,000 balance
But I
in
mean,
there.
we appropriate money for like a fire truck for a round amount of dollars, and it maybe came in a little bit less. That money should go back to general.
It goes into fund balance.
Yeah, but we should move that into so that's where that 425 is. It's because you're closing out the accounts, right?
That 425 does not have any bonded items,
No, I'm talking about the regular appropriated money and stuff like that.
things in our operating budget that we don't spend money on goes to surplus. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'll bring them up, yes,
Yeah, sure. Expenses were lower and revenues were higher than we estimated in March.
which is cool. That's what we want to see.
That's the way you want it to be, right?
Right. All right, and before I leave, I don't know if people understand that we're voting on a budget that's already here. Could we ever change that?
That's why we're here tonight.
No,
No.
Craig's alluding to our cycle, right? So we have a lot of towns in the state that operate on a June to July budget cycle,
Oh, I see.
which is
Big
more
barrier, yeah.
appropriate because you're actually, before, at town you're already operating under your existing budget essentially.
Right.
Right? And here we have to be fiscally conservative for the first 3 months of the year because we're looking at our 2025 budget for what we can spend. So it does impede on our progress the first couple of months. I agree with you. It would be nice to have that budget approved right out of the
Well,
gate.
and you're asking the town residents to come. I mean, yes, it's different than private business.
Yeah.
You're at a handicap, I'll give you all that, but I don't know if people realize that we're voting on a budget that's already happening.
Right.
And that, to me, it doesn't seem like my vote counts all that much.
Well, are you asking that we switch the year?
Fiscal
We do,
year,
we do have
yes.
the ability to do that as a town.
Yes, I would like
It's
to
a town
see.
meeting vote.
Is that
I would
something
like
you're
to go to
requesting?
town meeting in March and vote for the fiscal year starting, let's say,
Okay, it
July
has to be a
1st.
warrant article, so we can't do
Yeah.
it this year.
You understand? I would like to go to March,
I hear
Right.
you.
figuring my vote counts for the next year, which would be, let's say, July 1st to June 30th.
So
Whereas
this-
right now, my vote doesn't really,
No,
I
no,
don't feel all that counts because we're already 5 months into the month.
The
season.
state guidance and requirements is that we use the previous year's numbers while we wait for town meeting with
I
any
understand how
reasonable
legal it is.
changes
I'm
that we
just-
need to make.
I understand how legal it is. It just doesn't seem right.
Well, we can look at.
But you can change it at March, at town meeting, you can change the budget. You have that ability.
But we can talk about changing the budget.
But changing
here,
the
too.
budget cycle,
Yeah, we
that's
can
something
talk about
certainly
that.
that.
Would you do it at a town meeting, or you have to have a warrant article?
You have to have a warrant article to change from a calendar year to
I'm
a different fiscal
suggesting
year.
we do
yes.
that if people knew about it.
Sure.
We'll see what that
There
process
are
looks like.
caveats to doing that, and that is that you end up with what I think the first year is
Yeah.
extra.
A year and a
work
half.
Exactly.
Until you get offset.
Yeah, you gotta do the
And
transition.
So you gotta do that transition, and that transition requires a higher budget allocation in that
Right.
year to get you to the offset period where you're on a fiscal year.
I mean, you could certainly raise that at town meeting, Craig, and see what the sense of the town is.
Darrell Fernandez, 22 Flat Mountain Road. I did a little research. I don't know if this is a process question, and then if it's the right time to do the process, I'll go ahead with the process. If it's not, we'll do it next week. Can we make amendments to this tonight? Can we move to make amendments?
No, there's no voting that occurs here.
Okay.
But you can tell us what you're
So the-
interested in potentially amending, but those would happen
No,
at town
I'll
meeting.
wait till next week. I mean, there's just, like, I'll use Katie's general overhead, right? 50,000 for one-time recruiting shouldn't go into the ongoing budget forever. You've got $100,000 in your fund to do general recruiting. If you want to increase that going forward, then we should have that conversation to say, we've got 2 key positions to recruit for this year, so we need an additional 50,000, and we're going to put it in the forever budget. Doesn't seem like the way we'd want to handle that. That seems like a one-time thing that we'd put a warrant for. So those kinds of things, many
Right.
throughout, I would be looking for to amend the line items, to reduce them, and move the one-time costs to a different place. So that's the preview. Other preview is, I think, to Craig's point, to your point, to Craig, we missed the window for warrant articles this year, but I'll probably, for next year, be looking to put a warrant article on for a budget committee, because I think this is more work in the town involvement through select board meetings. When they happen about this topic is very difficult for people to track, and if we had a budget committee, that budget committee could be a place that people could go have these conversations, voice those concerns, and not have to kind of figure out when on the schedule of the existing process it's happening. So that's the other thing, won't happen this year because we missed that window, but I think it's something the town desperately needs with, to Stan's point, looking at a 4th year of 15+% increases.
But Darrell, if you do have specifics that you want besides
That's
the
what we're here for.
recruiting, I would love to hear them now.
Well, the other big ones are in Park and Rec.
Okay.
Both of those going up as much as they are, I think we really have to think about our services for the size town we are and the population we support against our neighboring towns and where our budget is, the growth of that budget. We've got to stop somewhere. We've got to draw a line somewhere. The annual increase can't continue. And we've got other big things to fund, and Park and Rec, candidly, is a discretionary item. Not saying cut it, but I think we should be looking much harder at those more discretionary items than we're looking at. So that's my list.
Thanks, Darrell.
Okay.
Hi, Lori Fernandez. I just have a question, and I apologize if it was already answered. But is there a reason behind what you have that's getting paid via the fund balance versus general taxation? And is it, you don't want, so once it's in the fund balance, i.e. the garage door replacement, we're not voting on that. That's something that the select board just.
Oh, no, we're voting
No,
on
no,
it.
no, you will vote on that, but I think you're asking why we chose fund balance versus
Correct.
taxation.
Yes.
Historically, the town has looked at fund balance as a way to pay for one-time items, and rather than putting it on the tax rate or bonding it out if it was, given the size of it. So every year, we look at, first of all, in the fall, we look at what actually happened to our estimates in March as to where we think we are and where we think we're going to end up in December, so get a feel for what fund balance in the black we're going to be. So at that point, we look at perhaps but that's when we set the tax rate. So that's actually when we do it. So this number of, where do we finally end up, 85? Because the school changed, right, or 88? What was the?
85 for the tax, then with the school, 77.
It's 77, thank
And
you.
if you can just separate the two as
Yeah.
well, what is the tax rate going to be excluding the decrease in school?
It would be 8 cents more.
More.
85 cents.
Yeah, but, it's composed of four, the tax, the total tax is composed of four different inputs. But basically, the board sits down and says, do we want to, this year, after everything was said and done, and we set the tax rate for 25, we came in with a $425,000 surplus. And as I mentioned, something like $250,000 of that was for the positions that we never filled. And we're going forward trying to fill those positions.
So we can
Again.
still vote on the things that are getting
Change the
paid.
funding?
Yes.
I'm going to be showing those in a slide coming up.
Okay. Yeah. But we decide, it's an effort to keep the tax rate down is the bottom line answer to your question.
So I don't think I necessarily need to define this term for you, but I do. And I wanted to say that the impact that capital reserves have to a community generally are, for reducing large tax spikes, right? To offset the general taxation grab and use some savings towards large infrastructure or equipment purchases. Again, something that I feel strongly about, and I think that the town would benefit greatly from moving forward. So this year, the town put together an additional $310,000 in capital reserve contributions, a request for $310,000 to bring our balance that's existing at $465,000 to $775,000 in capital reserve funds. And again, these are all, they're going to be broken out in the slide to follow, but they're all for specific purposes. We're looking to close 3 capital reserve accounts. So this kind of tells a history of how our capital reserves accounts that we've had been used. They were used for looked like specific purposes, like one-time purposes. We're looking to broaden that. Call these capital reserve funds municipal equipment, municipal facilities, just to give us a little more of an opportunity to spend those funds across different platforms. So the 3 that we're looking to close this year have relatively low balances. We have 11 cents in our toxicity corrective account. Our Waterville Valley Capital Project CRF that we've had out there has 86 cents, and there's a cruiser CRF that we had out there that has $514 in it. So when you see a warrant article this year asking the town to close these accounts, that's what it's associated with. So this is an outline of what our capital reserves currently look like, and if what we're proposing to add to those balances. So the first one shows that we have just over $100,000 of capital reserves in a Snows Mountain Engineering account. That account was created last year, so you see the interest that accumulated this year. It might be slightly more than that. I think I pulled those numbers in November. So a road repair account, someone had asked, what do we have in road repair money? It's a whopping $68,000, unfortunately. Municipal equipment and municipal facilities, the next 2 were also created last year and funded $50,000. We're looking to fund an additional $50,000 to those 2 capital reserve accounts this year to bring our balances upwards of $100,000 in those. Streetlights, we have about $50,000 in a streetlight capital reserve. Our Curious George Cottage, we have a capital reserve account for building repairs and maintenance. That sits at $50,000. We have an account for fire apparatus, so specific to our fire equipment, if we have an engine blow a pump, we have a little money in that reserve that has $50,000 in it. The municipal solid waste truck account was created a few years ago, has 25 in it now. We're looking to contribute another 25,000 to it to bring that balance to about 50. Corcoran Pond Dam was a capital reserve account that was previously established, relatively low balance of $5,000 for dam repairs. The Community Power Capital Reserve account was established last year with a $2,000 kind of starter fund. The Community Power group will present on a increase to that account of $25,000. I think they're looking at renewable energy projects down the road, and having a fund to help support those projects is an important thing in my mind. 3 new capital reserve accounts that we're hoping to establish this year. One focuses on Corcoran Pond's maintenance and repairs, some money that could help offset the dredging expense that we all know we're probably going to experience at some point down the road. $50,000 there. I recommended establishing a property revaluation capital reserve account. This is something commonly done by towns. You all probably remember in 2022, we had a full revaluation. That expense was baked into our operating budget that year, and it's not a low expense. That was about $75,000 of our assessor's efforts. And creating a capital reserve account, I think, would be in the best interest of the town so that they don't see such a large spike in their operating budget that year for a one-time expense. So if we can tuck a little away over the course of time, we'll have some savings in place to support that next reval, which happen every 5 years at a maximum or minimum.
Minimum.
Yeah, minimum, thank you. And then finally, a new capital reserve account that's specific to the Department of Public Safety. This was something that Dave thought is essential for his department. So believe it or not, right, guess what our next major equipment purchase is going to be in our DPS department? It'll be a new ambulance. So the ambulances have a 10-year life cycle. We just picked up an ambulance this year. Our next purchase, major purchase, hopefully, unless there's something catastrophic that goes wrong, will be a new ambulance in 10 years. But then not too far out, we're going to have a new engine that's going to be needed. And then, tell me about the sequencing, Dave. Is it 2 engines before we hit the tower, or what does that look like?
What I propose is, whether we like it or not, we're in the fire truck buying business. They do have a finite lifespan. So basically, the ambulance replacement is in 2036. Engine 1 is scheduled for 2039. The tower in 2048. And then the second engine in 2051. So those things are things that we will always be in the business to buy, give or take a few years up or down. But it is a repair and or replacement. So I propose that, you know, we should be putting some money away towards these purchases because they don't go away. These are things, these are high ticket items, even just based on the increases that we've seen. They're almost 100% even within the last 5 years, along with really long wait times. So we're in good shape now. We've got a new engine coming, should be here in June and July. Like Steve said, the next major piece of equipment will be a new ambulance 10 years from now. But putting some money away, if an accident occurs, we have a plump that goes, this capital reserve account also allows us to have some money in there for those repairs or to replace a piece of apparatus, unfortunately, if some catastrophe happens.
Thanks, Dave. Dave jogged something in my memory from some communications I've had with residents up into this budget season, and that was a comparison to our operating budget's increase to the consumer price index. And I strongly urge you to take a look at another data point. It's called the MCI. That's the Municipal Cost Index. And that takes into consideration many different things than what CPI focuses on. CPI historically is looking at food purchases and things of that nature, where the MCI is a different data point that looks at construction materials, that looks at large equipment purchases that are typically found in police and fire departments. So, and you'll see a much larger disparity, especially since 2020, with those two if you chart them out. The gap widens pretty significantly. This is just a bar graph that talks about our capital reserve funds, and it displays them in a little bit of a different manner. You're looking at the orange, our new requests, and the blue, our existing funds that we have in capital reserves. Any questions on capital reserves?
John Panicella, 10 Chippewa Way. I like the idea of capital reserve funds, planning for the future. From a financial standpoint, are those going to be kept in interest-bearing accounts? How do we, the equipment 10 years from now may be worth $900,000 or $1 million, but the reserve may be worth purchasing power of half that.
Right.
How are you going to account for that, and what's the recommendation?
Yeah, thanks, John. So the trustees of the trust funds are the custodians of the capital reserve funds, and I actually, at our last meeting, in hope that our balances continue to grow, would like to work with them on what other opportunities the town has to invest. Right now, all of our capital reserve funds are within an institution called the New Hampshire PDIP, Private Investment Deposit Pool, I believe it stands for. And it's been a good mechanism for us, primarily because it's a secure investment tool. But with those reserves being as low as they were, the balances being, the trustees didn't feel like it was a priority to look at other opportunities quite yet. But I think if hopefully these authorizations get approved this year, getting our balances up with accounts that have more than $100,000 in, we should be more intentional and try to research other opportunities that are out there.
If I can add, the NHPDIP is where the municipal entities go. That was created for that purpose.
What's their return historically?
I couldn't tell you. We'd have to look.
Do you know what their current rate is?
It's 3 point something. It was for most of 2025 around like 3.6. Yeah, I will say the One Plus, if you want to use it, it's liquidable. So, and sometimes where you put things in money, like whether it's a CD or things, you can't get it for a certain amount of time. It's money that we can go and say we need it, and it's in our operating account the next day. So that is a benefit to the PDIP, is that we are able to get those funds quickly.
And of course, the state regulates very tightly investments by municipalities.
Who determines, I guess my question is, because I can sell
The
from my
trustee
Fidelity
of
equity
the
account and
trust
have it in my
funds.
bank account in a day or two.
There is a position open.
And there
the
is a
trustees
position
of the-
open. So the trustee
I think I see a hand.
Right.
I've done very nicely over the past 3 years since retirement, and
Right.
but so
It is
my
a-
point is 3% is horrific. We're losing value in the money. And so 10 years from now, when we need that ambulance, great, I've got $900,000, $90,000 a year for 10 years, but its purchasing power may be half that.
Again, I think the approach was, let's build up the balances and we can get creative.
And there's a position open for the trustee of the trust funds. There are 3, I believe, positions.
3 positions.
And they actually control the investment decisions on these with the select board of involvement.
It would need to be a write-in, so just let people know.
Yes.
And they can write your name.
Nobody put their name in, so.
Yes, sir.
So I am also pro capital reserve, and I'm glad to see what we have on hand. But when we had the slide up there, we were talking about 2026, which is the one before that. Which is appropriate because we're dealing with the 2026 budget. But I did want to point out, because it may be obvious to others, or maybe not, that this is $300,000 of a $1.2 million plan. So in other words, there's another $320,000 that's in the projected capital, for the capital reserve. In other words, it's 1 year at a time, but this is just part of a projection of every year doing about $300,000. Correct?
Well, it would have to be approved every year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a delicate balancing act, because if we're going to continue to borrow,
And again,
Savings
I'm
and-
not against it, but I just want to point out that we're talking about $300,000. That's really 1.2 is the plan. So you're going to be back here
Yes,
again.
the plan is to build up the capital reserves.
Absolutely.
And that was a change that the select board made last year, given the sense of the meeting at town meeting. And it's going to be, it adds to the tax rate. And that's very different from the way the town pursued capital improvements in the past, where we went through bonding.
Right. Thank you.
It's going to take time to build up these accounts.
All right, I just have, I think, one more slide, unless there are any other questions on our capital reserve balances. We're going to be looking now at the proposed special warrant articles for the 2026 town meeting. And these are as follows in descending order of expense. So we have our first special warrant article. The Public Safety Department is looking to replace one of their bay doors that is quite drafty. It has some rot around the edges, and it's time. Another, I think it's the second, maybe third lease, Brooke? Third lease payment on a 4-year lease for the rec van. We have a DPW garage HVAC system that is in desperate need of a repair. We're looking to continue our street sign replacement program that was started last year and asking for an additional $20,000 to complete that project. A typical warrant article that many of you have seen, getting some money for water distribution repairs, and we're asking for $25,000 for that account. We have a request for an admin vehicle in the Department of Public Safety for $25,000. We're going to continue our municipal solid waste dumpster replacement program, asking for an additional $26,500 for that. We have a lease payment for our plow truck, which would be the third lease payment, I believe, on a 3-year lease. So that will be the last lease payment on the 2024 Dodge Ram plow truck, $41,000. We have our second annual payment on a new backhoe that we purchased last year for $47,500. The DPW garage doors are in need of some work, asking for $50,000 to replace the garage doors of the DPW garage. This next one, you may experience a little deja vu. This was a warrant article that came before the town in 2022. It's for a remediation project of the silt that's upstream of Snows Brook, causing sedimentation into Corcoran's Pond. The project in 2022 looked a little different than it looks today. At that time, we thought we might have a grant opportunity to offset the total expense of that project. So we were asking for $50,000 from general taxation and another $50,000 from a grant. Unfortunately, the grant never materialized. The Army Corps of Engineers got involved, and there was some complexities, I think, to the size of the project not being eligible for the grant opportunities. So the folks within the Conservation Commission who are passionate, the total expense of that project that we incurred from 2022 to current is about $7,500. The remaining of that authorization, the $50,000, is lapsing into fund balance this year. So the select board, someone asked about who's making the determination on whether or not these articles are funded through general taxation or through fund balance. The select board here thought it would be prudent to ask for that authorization through general taxation. DPW utility pickup. So this is the truck that you might see Jim Chapin or Dave Noyes driving out to do building inspections and code enforcement work. It's a 2014 Chevy 1500, I believe, that has a lot of rust. We've done, I think, a pretty decent job with Bondo and trying to keep up with the rust that vehicle has been exposed to, but it's time. It's 10 years old and almost 11 years old, and we need a replacement. We're asking for $65,000 to replace that vehicle, one-time purchase. And then the final special warrant article that we're planning on putting forward to town meeting is a continuation of the town hall and public safety space needs project that was started this year. So if you recall, I believe we asked for $50,000 at the 2025 town meeting to kick that project off. We found that we're going to need a little more to continue it, and I would ask Dave if you could update the town as to where that project stands and what the additional authorization will help us accomplish.
So we put forward to have a plan for a replacement of space needs assessment to be done for our public safety department and town. Different requests for proposals. We've chosen the Turner Group to do this assessment. They broke it out into 2 phases. The first phase was about just shy of $28,000. Basically, what they're looking at is what we currently have, give us a report for certainly our current condition, but look at what our needs would be looking into the future. So when you build a new building, you try to look ahead 50 years. What is the town going to look like? What do our departments, our staffing? You can't predict it all, but what potentially is our needs for that? The second portion of that is to say, with that in mind, what are our options? And so this second phase of that is to say, is this a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year option based on all the other projects that are happening in town? What is this going to look like? Is it a public safety department by itself? Is it a town hall by itself? And where are these going to go? Is it a renovation? Is it put on new property? And basically, I've been here since 2003. I've been through this process 3 times. We've kicked this can down the road. We're in a building that's over 50 years old. And I have, 8 patrolmen and 14 per diem members sharing a space in an 8x10 room, which is inadequate. We've outgrown our needs. And I'm sure you can attest that many of you have been to town hall and been in our station, that we're constantly having to do repairs, whether it's to the roof, the siding, the doors, the drainage, those sorts of things. And I think it's something that we can no longer just kick that can down the road. We need a plan. And this money will be used for that second phase to say, here are some options. And we would hope to come to you at the next CIP roundabout next year and say, okay, with these options, have some discussion of, here's our options, have this company put together those options for us so we can all have a good discussion of where we would like this to go. So that's what those funds are going to be used for.
Yeah, I'm ready for questions on the special warrant articles. You next.
John, 10 Chippewa Way. I'm looking at some of the items on here. One is the 2024 Dodge Ram lease.
Yep.
You're telling me we're spending $3,200 a month on a lease of a Ram truck?
It's our plow truck, yes.
So-
Not a month, no, a year. It's a year. It's a year.
41,000 divided by 12 is about 3,200.
So that's the plow truck that's outfitted with the sander, the two plows on either side. So the chassis for those, feel free to pipe in here, Megan, but it's an upgraded chassis to handle the, wear and tear of those.
I have a 3,500. That seems awfully high, but I mean, is that a 3-year lease, 5-year lease?
It's a 3-year, and it goes out to bid. Every time that we bring this up.
So
the
3 years,
first initial-
41,000 is about $120,000 for this truck to purchase it.
Yes.
Randy Breckner. I'm not quite sure I understood. With these motor vehicle and the backhoe lease, do we own the item at the end of the lease term?
Yes, sir.
So that essentially is both a lease and an installment purchase plan?
A lease to own.
It's
Okay.
Yep.
got it.
to buy.
All right.
It's financed, I'm sorry. Yep.
It's a lease to own. It was written in the way, it came back to town meeting, and it was voted down, we could give it back.
And we hope to get 5 years, potentially 6 out of our plow trucks.
So at the end of 3 years, we own the vehicle, we just pay them $1 or something, they sign the vehicle over?
Once we make that final installment, we get the title.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Reggie Breckner, for the last one about the $75,000 fund balance for the redesign or
Space needs.
space needs. Do we have a company that we're working with already on that?
Yes, it's phase 2. Chief, would you like to?
Yeah, we've chosen the Turner Group. They're out of Concord. They have about 151 different public safety projects similar to ours, whether police, fire, combination. They also do a number of, they specialize in municipal projects all over New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont. And we chose them because, one, their cost estimates for their final projects were under 5%, which I thought was pretty good. If you can get projects not to, under 10, you're doing a pretty good job. So their estimated costs and the final costs were very close. And they seem to be one of the most qualified of the groups that did this kind of project. We got a lot of proposals that many of them were commercial, not as much municipal experience or public safety experience. We look for a company that had experience in building public safety departments. They know what your needs are. We can look at a lot of the samples in their workmanship and the plans that they've done, and they just seem to fit the mold. They were under for the first phase, but it's a little more for the second phase of the project, and that's why we're asking for the additional money to finish this project.
When can we expect to see the plans and hear all about the project?
Yeah, they, as part of the contract, they're going to have participate for first phase with 2 select board meetings, so the public will get an opportunity to see their report what the space needs, ask questions. The second phase is the same thing. We'll get a chance to see what their proposals are. One of the things that I liked about them is their presentations, is their ability to present to the public and explain all this stuff, and it's not me doing it.
And I just do a follow-up on that. These plans, space constraint, is that envision this work being done within the existing footprint of the building? You're not talking about expanding the building out or anything, right?
We're looking at all options. So what this plan will give us is do we put a new building someplace else? They're looking at all town property, basically, and giving us options of what potentially would become available, what we currently have, what our current footprint is. Maybe it is where we currently are, and it's a renovation, expanding the footprint. We have some limitations because we're so close to the National Forest, but with the wastewater treatment project, there may be some land that opens up that becomes available that's potential for these types of projects, or there may be other parcels around town that would work also. That's what we're paying them for, is to look at all those options.
I assume you're talking about the septic lagoon area as being potential space?
Potentially.
How'd you like to sit there?
The dumpster project. With this year, are we going to be buying dumpsters that are the same yardage as we had previously?
No, we're moving to all 8-yarders. There are currently some 10-yarders out in town at certain locations that do not need 10-yarders, so those will get replaced with 8-yarders, and the 10-yarders will go to the larger locations.
So if you're going to smaller yardage dumpsters, what are you going to do to increase your dumpster dumping?
So right now, we are little shorthanded. We are sending somebody to CDL school with the hopes that they will thus become the full-time driver and being able to pick up more frequently.
How long does that process take?
We're looking at a start date of May, and it roughly runs about 6 weeks.
Okay, is there temp CDL drivers that you can hire? The dumpsters are an issue, so we shouldn't be going to smaller dumpsters. That doesn't make sense if this is an issue.
Thanks, Katie. Anyone else on our special warrant articles? Comments, questions? At all concerning our presentation today?
Stan Pecos. Well, I hope your takeaway, gang, is not to leave here tonight and say, "Ooh, we're through that." We heard at least you got a great amount of input from people on specific line items to look at. More than one, okay? All I'm going to point out is what you put in front of us for the bedrock fixed department spending. Darrell is absolutely right. The department budgets get fixed, okay? You know, there's this concept of zero-based budgeting. I don't think that's practiced here, okay? It's maybe practiced by businesses, but not here. That's what we're talking about. You are proposing a 15.5% increase in that level compared to what you spent last year, not the budget. Again, congratulations for spending 300 grand less. Your special warrants, that list here there, is down for the first time, by the way, and I want to say 5 years, if not longer. It's down from the previous year, so that saves you money to the extent you're not paying with the current tax. You're paying not fund balance and what have you. That's good. However, that can go up as quick. I mean, there's just so much of the 250 you can cut, okay? So you got to address this differently because, and I'm going to shock a couple of people here, I think. Tomorrow night, we're going to hear about a plan that's going to bring our base tax rate from $10 a square foot we had last year, not including the 88 cents this year, i.e. up to 11, 10 goes to $23, 2.3 times our current tax rate. And that assumes no more increases per year. So the buck a year you're doing here, 5 more years from now to 2031, add another $5 or $6. You're getting close to $30 a tax rate. Now, I'm going to hear people say, oh yeah, well, we got a low tax budget here, people can afford it. Affordability goes to the existing population here. We got a lot of, mainly second home owners here, and I'll guarantee you, a $30 tax rate, you're going to see a flood heading the exit doors, okay? Get your speed patrol out there on exit in the town. And that's going to have an impact on all our other values and what have you. So there's got to be a fundamental change. Craig, I can't support, you still here? I don't blame Latham. I can't support him going to a fiscal year budget because at least with this game, the way we're operating, all you guys have been able to operate on for the first 3 months is last year's budget, okay, which is down 300 grand. So until things change, we don't change the process here. But please reconsider what you're proposing for us, okay, before you ask for the vote, because maybe the best thing for us to do is not approve a budget and just have you operate with last year's.
Thanks, Dan.
Does anybody else have any comments on the budget, whether it's the operating budget or capital reserves or the special warrant articles? Okay, thank you. I will point out that there are 2 more select board meetings prior to town meeting. Certainly, you can come and address to the select board any further concerns as you think about this at those meetings. And thank you, Stan, for pointing out how important it will be for people to come tomorrow and learn and listen about the new wastewater treatment facility that we will have to build. So if no one else has any other comments, I will take a motion to close this public hearing on our 2026 budget.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it.